Hey, happy Monday, everyone. Hope you are doing well. It's the beginning of a new week, the last week in August. And yeah, we are moving along this year. Before we know it, it's going to be the end of the year. September, October, November, it's December. I mean, it's just right around the corner, basically. And this is in the raw, unscripted, unpracticed, unedited conversation. We've been talking about the power of a changed life and how your life is changed by God's mercy. Our lives have been changed by God's mercy. And we've been talking about different points. And today, I'm talking about the third point. If you haven't heard the other ones, you can go back and look at the other videos. But the third point is how we can be changed by God's mercy is by remembering what God has saved us from. We got to remember what he saved us from. I'm not trying to focus on something negative here. Sometimes, we don't want to bring the past back to the present. But if you're going to be changed by God's mercy, you need to remember that you need it. You need to remember what's happened in the past. You need to remember where you came from. And there's a passage in Luke, and it's a story that Jesus is telling. It goes like this. Then Jesus told this story. A man loaned money to two people, 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces to the other. Neither of them could repay him, so he kindly forgave them both, canceling their debts. That's an act of mercy, of course. Who do you suppose loved him more after that? Simon answered, I suppose the one for whom he canceled the larger debt. Then Jesus said, that's right. Now there's more to this passage, but I just wanted to focus on that part, what I just read, because there's a tough teaching here. The point is not that some people owe more things to God than others. The point is not that one guy really sins a lot. He owes $5,000 of sin to God, and the other person only owes like 50 cents. That's not the point. The point is not that we owe different debts to God. That is not what's happening in this passage. What he's talking about, though, is that sometimes we get into the trap of believing that we don't owe that much to God. That is why this is a tough teaching, especially for Christians, especially, for those of us who we've been going to church for a long time, and we've played that game. You know how to say all the right things. Maybe you forget what it means to be spiritually uncomfortable with your life. And you're just kind of entered into this autopilot zone with your faith. And you get this disease of thinking, I'm pretty good. Kind of like the Pharisee in the first passage we read at the beginning. You kind of think, God doesn't really have to forgive me of that much. I haven't really done that much. And this is a terrible trap that we can fall into for any believer. If you're maturing in your faith, you will face this. You will face this at some point. You will experience this. I guarantee it. Could be mild forms of this, but it's the beginning stages of this disease that entraps a lot of people, right? It doesn't really, people that really don't have a prayer life, people that don't read the Bible, and they don't really stop and ask for God's mercy, because I don't need it, you say, right? And really what that all is pride. People have a lot of pride, especially those, longtime Christians that have, learned, like I said earlier, to play the game, and you say, well, I don't really sin that much. I really don't need that mercy, but it's a trap of pride. And, if we're trapped in that, then there's a huge problem, because God saved us from something that we cannot forget. You need to remember the mercies of what God has saved you from. We need to remember. I'm going to include myself, and we need to say, I need God's mercies every day. The Bible says that his mercies are new every morning. We need God's mercies every day. And it's a tough teaching because I'm teaching it to myself. But this pride is dangerous. This idea that I don't need God's mercy, it isolates you from God. It isolates you from other Christians and other people. And you just become an island. You become alone. So I think it's important that we remember what God has saved us from. And always be thankful, as we said previously, but always ask for God's mercy. God, please, I need your mercy so that I don't go back to that, so that I don't fall back into that. But if we're prideful, we're going to continue saying, "No, I'm okay. I don't need, I'm not a sinner. I'm not. And the truth is, we're all sinners. The truth is that we all have corruption in our lives, whether we understand it or whether we want to admit it or not. We're all corrupt. We're all broken, and we need to continue to ask for his mercies every day. So I leave you with that, and the next time we will talk about the next point and how to live under that power of that changed life. We will truly change the life. All right. Hope you have a great week. We will talk to you soon.